we'd like to tell you a little bit about our Easter traditions here in Cajun country. And to do that, we have Claudia and Mr. Carl Fontenot, who are going to come and tell us about what we do with our eggs and a couple of traditions.
Bonjour.
Hello, Barry.
I can tell you what I'm going to do with my eggs. Moi, je vais les manger aussi vite que je peux.
Okay, we're here to tell you a little bit about the way we used to dye eggs way back then when we didn't have all that fancy dye that you can buy in the store. Okay, Carl, pick up one of those eggs. Okay, show them so they can see it. Tell us about that one.
Okay, this is an egg that I dyed with the weeping willow bark. What you do is to take the weeping willow bark away from the tree, and you cut off the actual bark itself, and you use only the meat of the bark, and it comes out to a red or
reddish brown, very pretty. Yeah.
We're going to have to help the people listening on the radio now.
No, yeah.
That's right.
And it's a color that I was extremely impressed with, because I wasn't ready for this color at all, and it really turned out really great.
Okay, show them that pretty one right there. Yeah.
Okay, one of the prettiest eggs,
pretty yellow one there.
We came out with was the yellow egg, and this comes out with the peels of
the onion.
An onion.
No kidding.
Yeah, onions.
An onion. When you get ready to dice up an onion, you cut the two ends and you take the 4 layers off, and before throwing it away, you put it in the pot to boil, and you put a few eggs in the pot, and you get a yellow egg.
Real pretty. Okay.
And this next egg, I'm going to let Claudia describe for us. This is an egg that we chased down the plant for years.
Not for a year, but for a month.
About a month, yeah.
Now that one is a sort of almost a goldish dark green, kind of olive green.
Yes. Right. Well, it started out as a brown chicken egg, and I'm sure that that's why it's dark the way it is. But we use the leaves of a pok-pok plant.
A what?
Pok-pok plant.
A pawpaw plant.
Pok-pok.
Pok-pok.
Uh-huh. Yes. And we wanted to know.
Pok-pok grows on Bayou Pompon.
Listen, we almost had.
Not the body seed.
Yeah.
Not the body seed.
We almost had to go to Bayou Pompon to find it too, because.
You know where they have some of those? Is right outside the store, John Vidrine's in Lansagigish.
Now he tells
us. He's got a pok-pok tree. And he sells the leaves. He's having a special on them this week.
We asked everyone. Of course, they remembered the pok-pok. But they couldn't tell us what it looked like, what the name of it was. So finally, Carl, how did you find out?
Through LSUE, through the biology department at LSUE. Dr. Vidrine and Dr. Bruno. What's Bruno's last name? Burkari.
To know the scientific designation, to know the scientific designation of the pok-pok tree, you have to be a doctor and a Vidrine.
Yeah. Because it's a plant that the Cajuns were familiar with on the roadsides, especially on the fence lines. But since agriculture took place, big time with all the pesticides and the herbicides,
and also people don't leave fence lines anymore.
And no fence lines, the pok-pok came out of the picture, and we didn't know where to find it. And
so it's kind of picky-pock for the pok-pok.
Through the help of Bruno and Dr. Malcolm Vidrine, we found it again. And it's amazing because it was also used for recreation, because the fruit of the pok-pok was like fireworks before the 4th of July. Because you'd squeeze it, and it would make a popping sound during the maturity of the pok-pok.
That's something. You see, we often don't realize what we're losing and all of the implications of it until you start looking. You find yourself looking for something like this. I'm sure people didn't realize that a whole cultural practice was going to be endangered because they were plowing closer to the fence.
That's true.
There's incidentally an attempt to restore prairie culture, a prairie environment, and this certainly needs to be thought about.
And amazingly that you should say that, that's where we did find the pork plant, is during this, in this restoration
Is that right?
project.
There you
go.
It
Yes.
is. And last but not least, is the good old coffee ground egg. Right after making the coffee in the morning, a lot of Cajuns put the coffee grounds in the water outside the kettle to boil eggs for the kids to bring to school, and they came out with the brown egg, the coffee ground dyed egg.
That looks like an egg of an old hen.
Yeah.
Well,
Now you had to be careful because when you use country eggs, a lot of the speckled eggs, picassé en français, they didn't take dye too much because of all the minerals that they had already in the process of making the eggs.
Now, you know, there's an awful lot of other traditions concerning dyeing eggs and associated with Easter that we're not touching on because we're dealing with real eggs. But one of them was dyeing rocks that look just like eggs.
no.
Funny you should say that.
That's for pocking.
Now, wait, what is this now? Is this a real egg? You sure? What is this one?
It's my egg.
Oh.
We're going to do some pocking, a tradition here we have.
Now, I don't know about how it was where you were from, but when there were kids, if your egg broke, the other guy got it.
That's it.
And you went hungry. So people went through a great deal of pain and trouble to try to find the hardest egg they could find. Some people would put nail polish on the end, you know. Some people would dye a rock. You didn't dye a rock. Now, and another thing that some people would do would be to dye a raw egg. And when you have... Carl, you wouldn't do that to me, would you? Okay. Can y'all get a little pan, the paper towels to put under us here? This is the tradition called paquet. Claudia, you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Well, let's see. Nogale told me when he was a young man, they would go from house to house pocking.
And of course, this comes from the word Pâques, which is Easter in French.
Right, and would y'all show them exactly what I'm talking about?
Well, wait, before we get there's some fine points.
Oh, okay, fine points.
You want them to hit right on the top, on the point of your egg. That way, that's where your eggshell can stand the most stress. Now, if he wants to win, he's gonna try to hit me on the side here. So it's my job to try to cover up as much of the side as possible. And sometimes the guy who's supposed to hit says, "Could you move your finger so I can see your egg?" You know. All right. Now I'm gonna trust that you're coming down right on top.
Right on top.
You're taking your time too. Huh?
All right. Who won?
Yeah.
You won. Okay.
Ça c'est cute.
One of the biggest customs in the area around here was when you pock eggs, that if you lost an egg because someone else broke your egg, you give it up. And
he got to eat 2 and you got to eat none.
Exactly.
Now,
And,
those of you who are worried as you walk through life and encounter this tradition, if you're worried about somebody giving you or paqueting with you with a raw egg, there is a way to tell. You can spin it, and if it spins, it's boiled. And if it doesn't spin, it's raw. I spin everybody's egg at home.
another way that my grandmother and one of my old cousins used to check all the eggs before they would boil them was to check it on the teeth. And the strong eggs were put aside to boil. And
This
the
is
weak
serious
eggs
business,
were
people.
for the kids. And then after they were boiled, they check them again. And that was for the real grown-ups, the one that took it for
Serious.
It's the Major
serious,
League, Major
really
League
serious.
Pake contest. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the different families had different traditions, but in my family, we'd all get together, and if you broke eggs, well, you were number one in the family, and when it came time to eat, well, everybody had to contribute eggs to the egg salad and the deviled eggs and whatever egg dishes that we had for that dinner. And if you didn't have enough broken eggs, well, you had to contribute out of your basket of the non-broken eggs.
Oh.
And that hurt.
It hurt especially bad.
Because a lot of the families went from family to family and relative to relative, throughout the countryside. And a lot of times you'd find yourself going to the last cousin with only 3 eggs left and hoping that you're going to break some eggs.
It was serious business, and it hurt really badly when you had to pull from your panier, your basket, and break some of your unbroken eggs, and you found your dyed rock by accident and started hitting it on the kitchen table, and nothing would happen. The kitchen table splinters. All right. Well, as you encounter Easter weekend, as we look forward to Easter tomorrow, you might want to bear some of these things in mind. And if it's not too late, you can get home tonight and you can try some coffee grounds or orange peel eggs. A beautiful yellow and a beautiful brown. And another thing that people used to do was to tie old ties. They tie their eggs real tight in an old tie and boil the egg in the tie. And when they would unwrap it, it would have taken the dye from the tie. You might want to ask your dad before you go in the closet and raid his ties.
Claudia has a beautiful story about one of the ways that you used to dye eggs was in an old hat made out of
felt hats.
Felt hat.
And
one of our songs
Yeah.
comes from that.
Well, no, I figured why, Gabriel avait un beau chapeau, c'est malheureux qu'il avait pas de calotte. I figured out why, because Madeleine had used his calotte to boil eggs for Easter.
There you go.
The calotte is the top of the hat.
Is the brim, yeah. Bien
Yeah.
merci. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carl Fontenot and Claudia Wood.